And thank you for joining us tonight for our webinar series. This is Why Sales Network. I am Joyce Johnson, author, speaker, sales champion coach, and founder of Why Sales Network. I'm beginning to do that more and more. That puts me in my happy space. It just puts me in my happy space. But thank you guys for joining us. Our webinar series tonight is about mental health, and particularly, as sales professionals, as you guys know, that's my industry. We have a high stress job, and a lot of people have a high stress job, right? Every industry thinks their job is the most stressful. But what we don't do a lot of times is acknowledge our stress, and we don't. And that's really with everyone. We don't acknowledge our stress. We don't acknowledge how we're feeling, our anxiety. We don't acknowledge our depression or how different things are making us feel. And so with the holiday season, and I know Twitter fact checked me and said it's not true, but I fact checked myself with Ms. Megan Copeland just a minute ago, who you're going to meet in a moment. The suicide rate does go up indeed during the holiday season, and more people are feeling bad and feeling depressed and things. So with further ado, I am going to go ahead and introduce my panelists for tonight. And since I just mentioned Megan, would you introduce yourself to our audience?
Yeah, so my name is Megan Copeland, and I am a mental health professional. I have a organization by the name of Mental Rich, which is a movement dedicated to helping women, especially women of color, and young girls suffering from mental health disorders.
Okay. Thank you for joining me, Megan. I really appreciate you and your organization, but also that your willingness to share your personal story
Mhm.
and how you've taken your personal story and journey to be able to help others. I certainly appreciate you for that. And we have also Miss Kim Mason online with us today. Kim, would you introduce yourself to our audience?
Hello, everyone. I'm Kim Mason. I'm the Executive Director of Women Cultivating Greatness. And what we try to do, and what we do is change the lives of women. It's with an emphasis on women who learn differently. I'm also a mental health advocate and a mental health coach.
Great. Thank you for joining us, Kim. And, let's just hop right in. And I think we all have a different way of defining or understanding what mental health is, right? I don't think anyone really truly, unless other than you professionals, really understand what mental health is, right? Um, Kim, would you chime in? And then I'm going to ask Megan, in what is your definition in your experience? How would you simplify it for us people who are not aware of the medical terminology? What does mental health mean?
Yeah, it is your emotional, psychological, social well-being. That's what it is. It's a person's condition, how they feel from day to day.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, so it can change from day to day.
Yes, and it can be situational, like you're going through something in your life at a specific time, and you may have some mental distress, such as going through a divorce, the death of someone you love, or it can be a chronic condition as well.
Right.
Mhm.
I like that. And I'm going to chime into something, but I'm going to give Megan an opportunity first to describe, Megan, how, when you're in your sections of people you just mentioned being a part of a group, how do you define mental health?
I think a lot of people think that mental health is behavioral, and I'll piggyback off what Kim said. It's more emotional, so it's how we feel about ourselves, how we act, how we think, how we handle stress, how we relate to others. Especially someone with me being diagnosed at the age of 12, and I started showing signs of mental illnesses at the age of 8, and so I damaged a lot of relationships from 8 years old until now presently because my emotional well-being was all over the place. I didn't know how to stabilize relationships with other people. I didn't know how to act until I got myself together started seeing a counselor. So like Kim said, it's more emotional, and I think a lot of people think it's behavioral, but it's not. It's just how we think, how we feel about ourselves, and how we act accordingly to the illness that we're suffering from.
That's right.
You know, what I wanted to say, Kim, when you talked about it's a day-to-day feeling, I think it's important to highlight that because, you know, and I've probably been guilty of it too, right? We say, oh, well, someone says they're stressed out, or someone, you know, we have all these biases that people, I keep telling you, everyone has biases, Black people too. So we have all these biases about mental health. And so we think, oh, well, she looks fine now. Nothing can really be wrong with her. You know, well, she was out dancing, you know, she was at happy hour, you know, she looked fine to me. And that it doesn't mean if someone's having just one good day or one good hour or one half a day that they're not well. Is that what I'm hearing you say?
Yeah, that's right. Because it can be chronic, and some days are better than others where you may actually feel fine, but then the next day you're not. So it's just really important to get some type of diagnosis if you find yourself, you know, on this roller coaster of things. And the reason why I really got into wanting to know more about mental health and becoming a mental health advocate is a good friend of mine who we met in the 8th grade, and you know, you could clearly tell that she had some emotional and psychological things, and it plagued her for all through our junior high and high school and into adulthood. And so you really have to get a handle on it if it gets too much out of control. And she ended up passing away at a young age. And she didn't take her own life, but it was just basically the whole stress that she was experiencing, that it manifests physically with an enlarged heart, and that's what killed her.
Wow, that's so her emotional, mental stress also made her become physically ill.
Yeah, it sits in your body, and it can do that. It has the ability to do that.
Right.
Yeah.
And Megan, I think there was some feedback on your side,
Okay.
but I want you to share, you know, again, you know, I can't say enough about you being willing to share your story on open platform to be able to help others. But you mentioned that it started with you as a young girl, you know, so for those parents who are at home now with their kids more,
Mm-hmm.
you know, because we want to talk about adults, but now this conversation is making me think that, you know, this may have been a lifetime illness,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So what were some of the things you were feeling at that young age, or some of the things that you were doing in response to your mental health diagnosis?
So yeah, at the age of 8, and you know, a lot of people know my story, but you know, I was raped at 8 years old by my mom's boyfriend, and so I started to show signs after the fact, and so it was little things like wet in the bed, you know, constantly sitting in my urine. Then I just started having like depression episodes, anxiety, you know, and I started just showing. It got to one point where I got so depressed that I'd like literally scratch my face until the skin came off. And so I think it stems from a lot of us as adults because of childhood trauma, because that's what I experienced among some other things, you know, in my childhood. But that was one, I think, that started my diagnosis. You know, I was diagnosed with PTSD. I was diagnosed with, you know, depression, anxiety at the age of 12. And so I should have been home, you know, playing outside, riding my bike, you know, playing with Barbie dolls, going by my friend's house. And I was suffering in silence. You know, I was having emotional breakdowns at 12 years old, and I had no clue what was going on. My auntie, she raised me because my mom and dad were not a part of my life. They were addicted to drugs. And so my auntie, took me in, at an early age, I think probably like elementary school and middle school. And so she started to see signs. And so she was like, something has to be wrong. But, she told me, don't tell anybody, keep,
Yes.
keep this quiet. I was 12 years old taking Prozac. So 12 years old taking Prozac. And so she wanted to keep it a secret. And that's the reason why I say we have to break this stigma related to mental health because, at 12 years old, I think she thought I was crazy. And I don't think she realized that the effects of the things that were happening to me as a child, especially being raped. I mean, I have a grown man, like literally, penetrating me and raping me, and I have no idea what to do. I'm screaming for help and no one is helping me. And so basically, eventually it got out. And so people were like, oh, well, there's nothing wrong with you. You'll get over it in a few years. But I didn't. I mean, I manage it, of course, but, I still cope with it. I see a counselor every week. And, I'm proud that I do because it has helped me tremendously to manage a lot of my mental health issues.
And that's good because, I'm going to say one thing. We need to get rid of all the secrets.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Man, when we talk about secrets and just holding on. I mean, there's even, I'm writing my book right now, No Back Doors for Me. And, even when you hold on to how you're being treated poorly in a workplace and things like that, and you're keeping that secret, it's all a secret. So those of you who are joining us for Y Sales Network Wednesday webinar, we're talking about mental health, how it impacts us. And I have two specialists here, Megan Copeland and Miss Kim Mason. So, the keeping of the secrets and I think also, Kim, that first question that I said was, as parents now that you're home with your kids, when you're thinking they're acting out, I mean, we don't want to be paranoid and be like, well, what happened? Anything, whatever. But I think, is there some things do we need to be a little bit more aware of our children's behavior and the change in their behaviors?
Yes, this has been a very trying year for everyone. And according to the American Psychological Association, there has been a huge increase. African Americans at 71% that are really stressed out because their children are at home with them. It's the first time really that we're with them all day. And what parents are saying is that the main thing that's happening is that they're getting stressed out managing the school schedule of each child, and include, like some people have 2 or 3 children and you're trying to manage all of that, make sure that they're getting everything that they need so they can continue on the path. So, the one thing right now for everyone is that self-care is really important during this pandemic. Yeah, it really is.
So, when you say self-care, are you saying, take some time to go walk outside by yourself?
Yes. So self-care is kind of defined as just taking a mental break. It allows you to take a mental break. That could be, going in your room and reading for 15 minutes, doing something that you enjoy. There's a lot of stuff that they say that during the pandemic is really good to do as far as self-care, which includes like keeping a schedule, going to bed at the same time at night and waking up the same time in the morning. I know that I started feeling a little bit more stressed because I was working. I work a full-time job and I also have a business. So I was working my full-time job. I would close that computer and open my personal laptop and then start working on my business. And I found that became very stressful because I felt like I was sitting in the same place, same spot all day. And so just the simple change of putting my work computer in another room and working there. And then I would actually say, okay, it's 4 o'clock. I'm getting off from work now. And then I go to another room. Something as simple as that made a big difference in the way I feel. But there's a lot of things that you can do to help during the pandemic to reduce stress.
You know, that was very helpful for me as well. You know, I try just to work in my office. It's not always the case, especially right now. I'm getting tired of being in office, like the walls are closing in on me. But I do try to get up in the morning and come to the office and do my work here. And I've gotten to the point where I used to sit at my desk and eat. I'll now actually go upstairs to my kitchen and eat instead of eating at my desk. So
Yeah.
I know that that's certainly been helpful for me, you know, during this time, because I was spending way too much time in office. You know, it was fine eating in the office and hanging out here all day when I would, you know, the next day I was going to get on a plane and go somewhere. But now that we're here, you know, just can't have that. You know, Megan, you mentioned earlier about participating in a group and someone saying in a group, like, I want to die today, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I mentioned that Twitter attempted to fact check us, but they were actually wrong when we talked about, because I asked you ladies, my experts, and they said suicide rates are more prevalent, do go up more in the holiday season. Tell us some of the things that may get shared in a group that when they say it to us as friends or family members who have been going through it with them so long that we may not take it serious and we need to look out for.
I would say for me, my habits changed. And so a prime example is when I was in college, I actually took 70 pills. So I attempted suicide, at an early, probably like 20 or 20 something years old. And so like I said, I started showing signs of mental illnesses around 8 years old, and then attempted suicide later on in life, and almost achieved. One of my girlfriends found me, brought me to the called the ambulance. They came over, brought me to the hospital, and the doctor said, "Hey, if you would have waited 10 minutes, you would have been dead." So I'm just grateful for that, as well. But I would just say some of the things that you need to look out for, especially with a family member suffering from mental illnesses, is like, mood changes, the way they appear, the way they act. I mean, just withdrawals. So for me, one of the things that I do, and people call it an introvert, but I call it like, this is my, I have emotional days. So sometimes I turn on my phone. I don't want to be bothered. There have been times when, I was so depressed that I laid in my own urine. And so it was to that point, it was really extensive. And then just like, always being tired, I would say low energy, fearing for little things, like just little things, having fear of that. I would say, being confused about a lot of different things. So those are the signs. I mean, amongst like probably 20 or so more signs, but I would say some of those things, especially if you see somebody go from being happy to all of a sudden being sad, and then all of a sudden, for me, when I started to experience mental health, I started to gain weight, and that could be, some people gain weight, some people lose weight. So if you see that, so just significant changes in somebody's behavior overall, however that looks, can be signs of like mental illnesses.
Yes.
Yeah. And, and I think sometimes that, well, like I said, as just having conversations with different people, I think the myth is that if the biggest myth that we can dispel today is that just because someone is having one good day or one good hour doesn't mean that they are cured overnight from their mental health challenges that they're experiencing. It just means just that they're having one good day or one good night.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I'm like that. I can be fine one day. I can be fine right now. I'm on a call with you guys, and then in an hour I could be crying for nothing.
Mhm.
So it just comes and goes. And I've always been told, oh, you don't look like you suffer from, mental illnesses. I didn't think that mental health illnesses had a look, but okay. So that's just
Right.
the stigma and the ignorance surrounding people who don't understand mental health at all.
And that's with almost anything, right?
Hmm.
I don't want to go extreme with our guests, but I mean, that's what people said about AIDS. Oh, this person doesn't like they have AIDS. Well, they do, right? This
Right.
person doesn't like they have mental health issues. It's not a look, right? I can be sitting here with you right now and having challenges in an hour. So it doesn't mean that it's just not a look, right? It's not a look, and I think hopefully we can clear up some of those myths. What are Kim, anything else out there that we hear people say way too often that may not be the case?
That Well, I'm sorry. What's the question again?
Is there any other myths that we hear people say all the time when it comes to mental health that just may not be true?
Right. I think that we've talked about quite a few of them, but
Okay.
some of the stuff I would say is like when people say or they take a person's behavior for granted, or say, well, oh, okay, well, everything is gonna be all right, you'll be just fine, walk it off or something like that. That's not good. But I don't think I can't think of any other like myths right now, but yeah, because we have talked about
Yeah.
quite a
Well,
few.
good. I'm happy we're covering them. And if our
Yeah.
audience have any, and they want to ask us anything, just let us know, and we will take questions towards the end. If you guys have any questions for Megan or Kim, towards the end. Again, I am Joyce Johnson. If you're signing in on any of the platforms, and we are talking, we are Y Sales Network Wednesday night webinar series, and we're talking about mental health. And so since we are on on LinkedIn, I remember sharing with someone, I think it was a week or so ago, that in the corporate world, whenever there was some type of someone would just have an outburst, or there would be some type of workplace issue, whether it was violence or just a person having a meltdown or something, unfortunately the post office got a bad rep from the years ago, be like, oh, they just went postal, right? And I think that in the workplace a lot, probably, more than anywhere, because that's where we make our money, how we take care of families, right? More than any place, we probably try to hold it together there. And we probably endure a lot more in the workspace than we would in other spaces. Um, you know, Megan, share, and Kim, I'm gonna ask Kim as well, share how some of the things that people can do to work through that anxiety and stress that may trigger them to move into a different space. What are some of the things that they can do?
Um, Kim mentioned it before. I would say self care is so important nowadays, especially in the times that we're in with COVID and the things that's going on in the world with Black people being killed by the police. I would say the most important thing for me, that I take time for myself. So I block off times on my calendar because I do work a full-time job. So I block times off my calendar so that I can, maybe go outside for a walk, or maybe, sit down and have some tea. Little things like, maybe make a smoothie, or just meditate, or do some
Mhm.
breathing exercises. Like I block off that time because that's me time. And so that's part of my self-care as well. And then also I have a list. um I'm starting this. Well, I started this challenge. It's called a 90-day self-care challenge, and it's little things
Mhm.
like making my bed, or learning how to say no. Learning how to say no. And then also too, I've learned that just because someone sends you an invite to a meeting, you don't have to accept it. I mean, if there's something that's blocked on your calendar, that you already have scheduled. I learned at first I used to be like, well, I need to, cancel what I have going on. But now I'm like, you know what? You saw my calendar. my time was blocked. You have to respect that. And that's a part of, setting boundaries with people and saying no.
Setting boundaries, yes.
Boundaries, and then teaching people how to treat you as well. That's the most important thing. So those are some of, the small things. I can't stress this enough. And like Kim says, self-care is the best care. That's the most important thing that you can give to yourself overall, your mind, your body. So that's the most important thing right now that you can give to your spouse, to your kids, to your workplace, because you're like, your work can't be done if you're not good. Like if you're stressed out, if you're having, anxiety, if you're dealing with whatever emotion that you're dealing with, you're no good to nobody, right? You're not good to yourself. You're not good to your work. You're not good to your children, your spouse, or whatever the things that you're doing in life. You're no good. And so another thing I would share is too, I'm really big on self affirmations. So on my wall, I see in the back, I write self affirmations down. Like, I am empowered, I am strengthened, I am loved. And I remind myself every day that you are somebody. And that's the most important thing that I can give to myself right now, especially during these times.
Right. I noticed Jeffrey on LinkedIn said, why do we have to talk about people being killed or what have you, and the police? And, this isn't a political discussion, Jeffrey. You're right. We're not talking about that. I think, Megan was just pointing out that it was something that stressed her, but we're just talking about people being stressed in general, Jeffrey, and how people can handle this in the workplace. So yeah, I've seen some of Jeffrey's posts before on LinkedIn, and so he gets pretty passionate. But Jeffrey, you're right. We're not just talking about that, and this isn't political platform. What we're talking about tonight is how we can identify mental health in ourselves and in others, and how we can take care of ourselves. So I know that someone had posted earlier, I actually think it was my mom, she's a retired nurse, said about taking deep breaths to try to, move stress away from your body. And I know a lot of people have said that on different times, any exercise person or what have you. So I think that we just need to recognize what is going on. And if we can do something to not make it worse for people, I guess is what I'm wanting to say, then let's try to do that. Let's be that hero, right? Like, let's try not to make it, worse for people when we already know that, and especially as Kim said, we're all working at home. It's COVID right now. Even we're making calls and we're all having a max amount of Zoom calls, right? I was saying today, someone was interviewing me and asked me what's 3 things that I'm really connected to right now. And I was like, well, my makeup, because I have to put on makeup to be on these Zoom calls. I was like, makeup, and then lashes, and my Chanel No. 5 body fragrance that makes me feel good when I smell it. Right. So, and so that's my self-care, right? That's my self-care. And that's the way, my green tea in the morning and my emergency that I start my day off with every day and a bottle of water kind of just helps me jumpstart and get things going. Right. So Kim, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Oh yeah, I was just saying, I would just like to add a few things to what Megan said, and her list was really good. I think the first thing is just to acknowledge our feelings. Sometimes we just want to push things under the rug and just say, I'm not really feeling that way, or try to ignore it. So, just acknowledge how you're feeling and speak it out. That's just like also with the positive affirmations. I have mine in a picture frame behind me.
Yes.
So that helps. And Megan was like learning to say no. One thing that a lot of people don't think about is to stay on your budget, because sometimes, like, when you get sad and I know for me, I manage mine. Everyone has to manage their mental health. But, when I see a million Amazon trucks going through my neighborhood, I'm like, oh boy, because that's what we're doing. We're doing this online shopping. And
Yeah.
so you want to make things worse with yourself financially. Um, yeah. And so knowing your limits and identifying things that cause you stress, like there's certain television programs, because we're in COVID right now. I don't watch certain programs because I don't need to increase the stress level. I'm
Yeah.
not, yeah. So, yeah. So that's all I just wanted to add a few more.
Yeah. And that's true about television programs because a lot of them now are highlighting the reality of what's taking places in the hospitals and things. And so I was watching one of them and I was like, wow, I wasn't expecting this today, right? I was looking to be entertained and kind of woo-saw a little bit. And so interesting to see it. And, and I'm sure they did their homework and, they had their medical advisors and things like that. But even that was a lot. I see where Hope said, oh, did I lose it? Says, uh-oh. It said one day, I don't know if she erased it. It was just saying one day that she's feeling bad or something, and she went to put I guess it was a negative feeling, and she didn't want to push it down because she didn't know. Said, I don't have that control or authority. Let me see here. For those who caused that letdown. So I'm thinking that it might have been about the workplace. Hope I see where she had put that, and maybe not having authority over people that was causing negativity. So again, one of the things I shared with some college students a couple of months ago is that when you're in the workplace, whether no matter where you're working, when you're in the workplace, when someone comes to you and they want to have a discussion that you're not ready for, and it wasn't planned, they didn't send you an email or a text or something, an invite to say, Joyce, at 1 o'clock on Wednesday, let's sit down to talk about XYZ. But if they just come to you and they're very emotional in the moment, you don't have to have that conversation at that time. I found myself before saying, I don't think this is a good time for this conversation. Maybe I think this conversation has gone too far, it's out of hand. Are you okay if we schedule time to talk tomorrow? Because then when you come together and you're talking at that time, everyone's ready for that conversation, and it diffuses some of the anxiety and the emotion and the stress that you're having. Because if you're already stressed, and I don't know, Megan, from a mental health perspective, someone may not, if they're in that space, they may not be able to have that type of control, like what the person's talking about before. They may not be able to have that type of control, and they may not be able to say that, right? But it's one of the things that I recommend because it's happened to me quite a bit, and I was already in a high stress mode, anxiety, and I'm like, you know what? Can we have this conversation? Can we just look at each other's calendars and come back and have this conversation, and and talk things out from there?
Yeah, that's a good way of setting a boundary. That's setting a boundary.
Yeah, and emotions
Yes.
are running. Emotions are running high between both of you. You never know what you're going to say, so it's good to just ask to revisit that conversation at a later date. And it doesn't have to be the next day; it can be next week. Like I said before, and like Kim said, it's about teaching people how to treat you and setting those boundaries. And it's all about respect.
Yes, absolutely. And Kim, you made a great point. I don't want to hop over that one. We got to go back to that one. We talk about those Amazon boxes and things. People are are shopping to get through and past their stress levels right now. I I'm probably eating. My Uber Eats bill is like I got tired of cooking, and but they're shopping, and I see the Amazon, and all the UPSs and things delivering in my neighborhood. And it's probably not the best thing because you don't, that financial debt is going to put us even more over the top. So My brother says that he just has more money now because he's not going anywhere. So do you think they're shopping because they have the extra money, or do you really think that they're running up debt or combination? What do you think's happening there?
Um, I think it's more about running up debt, from the people in my own personal life who I'm
Mhm.
talking to. And
If
the
y'all out there, Kim's talking to you.
Yeah, the thing about it is something else because you can always think of something to buy. You can always think of something to buy.
Yes.
And so I really think that if we're not careful, people will have a financial crisis once this thing is over. And so what I do for myself is at the beginning of the month, I write down, how much I can may be able to spend on myself, like staying within a certain amount of money. And when I get to that, I don't spend anymore. But it just, I try to do little by little because, like you said, you can always come up with something to buy. I'm like, oh, that's a nice watch.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know it's a lot of things out there I want to buy, and I just talk myself through like, come back, Joyce, come back, come back.
Yeah.
It's not in the cards for you right now. Come back. So, can you mention some of the things about some of the extra triggers that people have with mental health around the holiday season?
Um, I would say the most important thing for me, and I'm just speaking for myself, but loneliness.
Yes.
I mean, I'm a single person. I've been single for a while, and so during the holidays, um, I want to share, memories and build, things with someone. And so I find myself, being lonely, during the holidays. It's an emotional thing to where, like, I start comparing myself to other people. I'm like, I'm the only one. I'm out of all of my friends, I'm the one who's not married or who doesn't have kids. And then I start to get sad, and I mean, it's over in, like, January, February, but like during the holidays, like, you just want to, um, share your memories and build with someone. Just little small things. I would say for me, that's the number one trigger for me, is loneliness. And especially around COVID time, traditionally, we're visiting family. You're visiting your aunts, you're at your cousins. It's like 20 or 30 of you guys just enjoying, family, having a good time. And we can't do that.
Yes.
We've been told here in Texas that, during the holidays, that just make sure that you're spending, time with your immediate family. So everybody that lives in that current household now. And so that could be stressful, especially when, you have traditions for many years to pass, spending time with family and your grandmother, and you guys are singing, and, playing the piano, because that's what my family does. And so that can be stressful as well, during the holidays.
It can be. Our family normally has a big gathering during the holidays. Kim, how about your family?
Yes, same thing, same thing. We cook and, play games, watch TV and all of that. So this Christmas will definitely, this whole holiday season has definitely been different because with Thanksgiving, um, just my sister came over and that was it. But, we have to be careful about what we're doing now. So, yeah.
And Megan, I can understand the loneliness during the holidays, right? I'm a single person too, so like for instance, my sister and her spouse are going out of town for New Year's. They're like, "Oh, come go to Mexico," and I was like, "Oh yeah, no, I'm not gonna go be the third wheel. Not gonna happen, right?" And then my friend, my good friend Paul was like, "Oh well, we're going up to Jamaica in January. Yeah, okay, have a good time." So I end up traveling a lot by myself too. I'll go to dinner by myself. I will go to the movies by myself, and some people think it's weird, but it's just the reality of my life. And I'm not lonely in those spaces. I've just learned to And I'm an observer of people, so I can get there and I can entertain myself, I guess. But I can see where, but sometimes that does become, where you want to be with someone and you want someone there to be there for you and don't want to spend the holiday by yourself. I was thinking this year I probably will be by myself, for Christmas. Now, granted, Auntie Marie, if you're watching, I'm not going to miss cooking all those pancakes for the family, but I am going to miss seeing the family. I am going to miss seeing the family. But our point is we're talking about mental health right now. If you guys are joining us, I am Joyce Johnson. I'm here with my guests, Kim Mason and Megan Copeland. We are talking about mental health. And right now we're on the conversation about the extra stress that people that are experiencing mental health challenges have during the holidays because they're spending time, by themselves, and they're missing companionship, especially now during COVID, from family members and friends that they would normally be spending time with. And so we are just trying to talk about some of the myths. If anyone, again, have any questions, we have Kim here and Megan here who are, professionals in that space who could answer questions for you. If you ladies do, let's share some numbers, have some numbers, or maybe some organizations you want to recommend that people can reach out to if they feel that they're having problems with mental health or struggling through the holidays. Are there some resources you can share? Kim, you want to start?
Yeah, I know that there is just a lot of information on the American Psychological Association website. So it's apa.com or .org. And you can look up information about COVID and how to deal with the stressors of this time that we're having. They also have stuff on there about holiday stress as well. So that's a really good resource.
Okay. And Megan, do you have any resources that you like to recommend?
Yeah. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Would you like to recommend any resources for individuals struggling with mental health during the holiday season?
Yeah, so I would just say Mental Health of America. There's the Center for Mental Health. There's different mental health foundations. So if you just Google mental health foundations in your area, your state, you can find different organizations that can help you as well. And then if you're struggling with mental health and you need somebody to talk to, I would say, the first step is to seek counseling as well. A therapist. That's the best bet as well. So those are a number of things. And if you need somebody to immediately talk to, if you're feeling, down and depressed, you can always dial 211. And then that customer service representative can you to the appropriate organization to help you cope with whatever you're dealing with.
Wow, I didn't know that. So if you're feeling stressed from mental health and you need a resource, you can dial 211 and they'll help you. That's really good to know because I wasn't aware of that. So I'm happy that we're able to share that. And someone asked if we can type in those websites. Monica, I know she'll probably type those in. She'll probably, soon. So we'll have that for you guys. And if not, we'll certainly add them we'll add them to the podcast on all the platforms. I know one day before this, as I was preparing and doing homework and research for this call, because I wanted to, be able to actually hold a conversation with you ladies and know a little something. I just went on my phone and I went to somewhere if I'm driving to get directions, and I put in there suicide helpline, and it just popped up a lot of numbers, right? So when I thought about that, I was thinking that we should, one thing that'd be good to share with people is that if you are feeling, because we have to, get to the point where we really begin to listen to our bodies and listen to our minds, right? And so if you are overly, if you are feeling that you are having some challenges with mental health, with depression, if you have any thought that you think that you're experiencing that, I recommend you go ahead and look up one of those hotlines, or engage in counseling. But if you feel it in that split of a moment, I just wanted you to know you can go to your phone and you can type that in, and multiple 800 numbers will pop up for you that you'll be able to engage and find some resources to help you and get support. So don't go it alone. Sometimes just to hear someone else's voice, you ever been having a bad day and the right person call, sometimes I can be sitting at home working, especially when I was trying to shut down for a few days and work on my book. And I'll say, I'm not taking any calls or what have you. And then all of a sudden I get a little FaceTime coming in from my niece, Kennedy, who's 7. And it's like, oh, it's my Kennedy, so sometimes, those things can, help you. Sometimes just a matter of talking to someone. And sometimes, it's even better to talk to someone who you don't know. Right? Like, would you think that? I mean, I know in the times when I've dealt with so much in corporate, I didn't want to share that with my family and stress them out. I didn't want to share it with my friends, and I didn't want to share it with my peers because I didn't want to be considered a whiner, right? Or can't be able to handle it, and a lot of us are going through that in corporate, right? So we're afraid sometimes to say something because we don't want to be deemed, oh, well, she can't handle the job, we're not going to promote her, or she can't handle this, or she's emotional, whatever comes with that. So sometimes I think it's better if you would just reach out and get counseling for yourself, and if time permits.
Yes. And also, there are some churches you could check, if you do go to church, check your local church, because sometimes they have counseling services there.
Yeah.
So
yes, that's good to know too. Yeah, there are some of the larger churches I know here in the Houston area. Some of the mega churches, they advertise that they have counseling for couples, individual counseling. And a lot of them are not 100% functioning right now, but I'm sure if you called, they would be willing to accommodate you.
right.
They would be, call a church in your area, and they should be willing, I'm sure they'll be willing to accommodate you. Kim, is there anything addition that I haven't touched on that you'd like to share with the audience this evening?
A ancient practice is coloring mandalas. And you can find mandalas in any bookstore. And what it is, it's a intricate picture that you can color from the outside in, and it kind of makes you centered. I don't have my book up here, but
interesting.
Mandalas will center you and ground you, and just give you some calm.
Right.
So sometimes if I'm really feeling stressed, I'll color a mandala, and you just always feel better afterwards.
Oh, well, that's something definitely new, so maybe, find a hobby, something to keep you busy,
Definitely.
yeah, find a hobby, something to keep you, very, very busy.
Yeah. There are a bunch of apps now that I really like. The Calm app that will play music. There's a lot of meditation type videos on YouTube that you could call up. So there's just a lot of things you could do. One thing that you don't want to do is to stay in that negative space. Even if you make a phone call to a good friend, you want to kind of interrupt that pattern, because what happens, your brain will think something negative. And then if you allow it to think the next negative thought, we'll think another one and another and another. But the great thing about it, that also happens when you do a positive thought. I am successful. I am, with the affirmations. So you just want to be an active participant in your mental health. And I just want to really thank Megan for just being so transparent. I just think it's wonderful. And it's so helpful, because, what you said has helped me quite a bit. So, just thank you for that.
Oh, thank you. No problem. I just want to, help people, and I have to be transparent in order, to help people and share my story.
Yes.
Yes. And, Megan, I was just going to, ask you. So you've mentioned, during the holidays time, you feel lonely, you feel stressed, you know, um, how have you been feeling during this holiday season and this COVID season so far? And, what have you done to maybe, keep yourself in a positive space?
You know what? I feel okay. I had to realize that I had to just be okay with being where I am now presently. Um, and so I started to surround myself with positive people because that's the most important thing that you can do for yourself around this time as well. So just remember, I had to remember to like just be gentle with myself, right? And then, basically what I do every morning, so I'm in two groups. So I joined this group where I meet with a bunch of ladies from London, and we meet every Monday evening, and we meet for 2 hours, and we basically talk about everything from like God to how we feel to emotions. It's been so um amazing and just powerful just to be around these amazing, women who just love God, who loves themselves. And I'm also every Monday, I think Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, and Friday, I'm on a prayer call. And then sometimes that prayer call can last until like 1 o'clock in the morning. And it's so refreshing. I know and it's so funny because I challenged myself because I was like, if I could sit up and watch TV, until 10 o'clock at night, I could get on this call and, and be
Yes.
empowered with the word of God and just encouragement as well. So I just started really just hanging around people that can fill me up. Um,
Mm,
and and bring me joy, however that looks, So and I
Right.
feel fine. I mean, I, I don't really care that I'm, single and I'm spending the holidays by myself because, I'm really not in a way because I have those people that are, there for me and I can always call them when I need help or encouragement or just kind words. So yeah. I mean, a year ago I could
said a mouthful.
yeah, a year ago I couldn't say this. I would probably be like, oh my God, I'm so single. But now I can say this because I've been filled up by people who really just care about me and love me and who want to see me grow.
That's great. You got to have positive people in your life. And when, uh, the first couple people typed that, what Kim said, be an active participant in your mental health,
Hmm.
and they say that all the time about your health as well. And, so again, for those joining, I'm Joyce Johnson. We're talking about mental health tonight. Megan, what you said about you're on a support group with women who are not even in this country,
Hmm.
right? And so we talk about things that have changed to the positive during this pandemic and things is that we are virtual and I do it myself. I get on calls and groups for industries that I'm not even a part of, but I meet these amazing people. And so you have built a sisterhood
Hmm.
with some women across the pond, as they say, and they're caring for you and they're feeding into you in a positive way. And I just love that. And then you said that you're being intentional about being on your prayer group because you could be either watch TV or you could be on your prayer group, right? And so you're being intentional about your mental health and um, how you feel and how you want to feel. You're making a decision to help yourself feel better. And I love that. And thank you for sharing that. Um, I'm not sure who Hype Percent is, but they said the world is full of sadness. And unfortunately, it is. And especially right now, it's really tough to get something positive. I mean, even looking at the Christmas movies, I had one of my nieces here over the weekend and we watched, several Christmas movies, had a popcorn night and things like that. And even that's tough because you want to feel that joy. You're like, it makes you think, oh, well, I'm having this wonderful moment, but oh, I'm not going to see my family, you
Yeah.
know. but hopefully you've learned some things on this platform tonight about just self-care, saying no, making people, pushing back on people and showing them how to treat you, sharing, putting up positive affirmations to tell yourself and to talk to yourself, and just finding ways to love on you, put people in your life or allow people in your life who's positive. And then, and I always say too, then push that positivity out to other people, you know.
Yes.
Yeah.
And, so I think those are great things. And also, if I have something to say to people as well, is when someone is in that space, try to have the patience to help them. And just don't think because it's a certain person that they don't need help, right? And just like we said earlier, people think that, oh, well, she doesn't look like she has mental health problems. He doesn't look like he has mental. It's not a look, people. It's a feeling. It's not a look, right? I could be having an anxiety attack. I could be stressed because I have been and I have had. So be willing to listen and to help, and and take some of the biases off, because just because it's coming from that person that you didn't expect it to doesn't mean it's not happening. A friend of mine here in Houston called me a few weeks back. Someone at her workplace had committed suicide. And I've shared, I think, in some of my sales tips and other things on our platforms to check on your strong friends.
Yeah.
One of my friends from elementary school, Darren Miller, I'm gonna say his name, you see on Facebook, everybody will know. He texted me one day and I'm like, oh my gosh, is something okay? Is everything okay? And he's like, yeah. He said, I read a post. When I called him, I said, everything okay? He said, I read a post that said, check on your strong friends. And I just wanted to see if you were okay. And that just meant so much to me, right? For him to recognize, or whoever put that out there, for him to recognize that check on your strong friends. They may not be okay either, right? And so, you have to, be willing, have your ears open, your heart open, your mind open, and be willing to help people when you do find someone in that moment, even if it's not the person you expect, even if you don't feel like it, right? Sometimes we have to do things we don't feel like doing.
Yeah.
I want you ladies to mention as well. I have here the organizations because I'm not sure that they got typed in the system. So maybe my team will hear me say them. For some organizations for support, you guys mentioned APA.com. That may be APA.org. And the also, is it the mental health awareness? Is that
Mental Health Association?
The Mental Health Association?
Mm-hmm.
The Mental Health Association, because I know someone had asked us to type that again. So I want to make sure that we share that. We also want to share on our platforms that Megan gave us some great information that if you're feeling anxiety and stress and need to talk to someone, you can dial 211. And when you dial the numbers 211, someone will answer and get you help. And that's amazing because I didn't know that. I knew 911, I knew 311. If I need to call the city of Houston for my water, Mayor Turner. The mayor's like, are they really talking about me? Yes, those pot. No, kidding. But anyway, ladies, we're coming to a close. Is there anyone that had any questions for us before we do? I know I've seen some things go through the platforms. Monica, I know she's back there. You guys all know Monica. She's amazing. So she's back there typing her fingers away, trying to get all the information out. Were there any questions that we missed? Let me see here. Let me try to scroll for some comments. I did see a couple of comments and I mentioned them.
Yeah. Can I add something too?
Yes, ma'am.
I just wanted to add that it's important now that you just show empathy to people, because you never, I know you've heard this multiple times, but you never know what someone is struggling with or going through. And people don't always have to announce their struggles, right? Because I feel like, and when people show empathy to someone when they're announcing and sharing their struggles, just show compassion, because we're all struggling in some way, in some shape or form, whether that's dealing with mental health, financial issues. I don't have kids, but my cousin, it's a lot for her right now. And so, I call her just to see how she's doing. And so just be mindful. Just be mindful of somebody, because you just never know, what type of day they had, or what type of week they has, where your words can be really detrimental to them.
Absolutely.
Spread positivity.
Yes.
Your post and what you say, all of that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And if you're not in a good space yourself, you're angry about something, your kids had an algebra test and you didn't know algebra, so you couldn't help them, and you were like in a tizzy about that. No kidding.
Mm-hmm.
What, just don't try to make someone else's day bad because you're having a bad day. Compassion, it's just, be compassionate as possible. And I know that, it is stressful times. And even if you still have your job and if you're still doing well financially and what have you, I mean, some people losing their family members, and not just to COVID, to other things. People have been, sick and losing family members. So just compassion. And like you said, like Megan said, people just don't have to wear it on their sleeve and say, I'm having a spicy day. They want to show up and they want to be their professional self, and they want to support you. So be supportive without knowing, if that's a thing, That makes sense. All right. Be supportive without knowing. Well, ladies, thank you again for joining the platform. How can people reach out to you? Let's start with Megan. Megan, I know you have an organization that you created to help people. How can people find you and your organization if they just have questions or need help?
They can go to my website, www.megancopenglobal.com, or they can email me at info@mentalrich.com.
Info@mentalrich. I love that.
Mm-hmm.
So info@mentalrich.com.
Yeah, Mental Rich. Yep.
So
Rich. Mm-hmm.
That's cool.
I love that. I love that. So how did you come up with Mental Rich?
One of my girlfriends actually came up with that name.
Mm-hmm.
And so it just stuck. And I was like, you know what, I like this. It makes sense to me. So it just stuck. It sound good. So I used it, and everybody loves it. I just feel like in order to be rich mentally, you have to acknowledge, your illnesses, and then work through them, for the better. So, I mean, there's more to it than that. But yeah, one of my girlfriends said, hey, I like this name. So I took it, and I've been working with it ever since.
I love it. Mental Rich. I know my mom would always say, pray for your sanity every day, because without your sanity, you can't do anything for yourself. And I don't think that we really know how true that is. Like if you have a broken arm or a limb or lose something like that, you can still function, for yourself, but sometimes if you are in that, if you've had, one of the things I was going to ask you guys, and I totally forgot, was about mental breakdowns, because people had asked a lot about that. So Kim, would you talk a little bit about what it really kind of maybe means to have when people use the terminology, because I want to educate people when they use the terminology mental breakdown, and then after that you can share, we'll share. Let's talk about that for a minute.
Mental breakdown is when emotionally, psychologically, socially, your emotional well-being, I guess for a lack of a better word, takes a hit, and it's intense and immediate. So that is kind of like is identified as a mental breakdown. Something has occurred and it was swift, and it impacted you with a lot of emotions at one time. So that's basically the definition for it, and it usually,
and as a result of it,
it usually requires you to see someone immediately. whether it's a therapist or go to the hospital or something like that. And it could be, a loss of a loved one due to the COVID, especially if it was someone who's close to you that you see all the time, like a spouse, that can be very traumatic. And so some people have suffered from mental breakdowns because of it.
Yes. Yes, that's true. And so I did, someone, that was some of the dialogue that I was having, as I mentioned before, my research. That's another term that we say all the time. Oh, someone had a mental breakdown. Well, kind of like, what did that mean? And someone explained it to me, like if like if your brain had a stroke or received some type of trauma and shut down, your physical, now you've been shut down your emotional part of things. And so I just wanted to have
yeah
professionals talk about it.
And where you basically become paralyzed and unable to function in your normal capacity, like unable to get out of bed, unable to brush your teeth. Like it's that intense, and you just require help at that point, that time. And it could be situational, it could just be because of a situation that happened. You get the help that you need, and things start getting better. And it usually involves some form of depression, intense or severe depression.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, thank you. I definitely wanted to get that out. I took a little peek over here. I got like 3 cheat sheets. I looked at my notebook here, and I just wanted to make sure that was addressed, because that was something that came up during my homework preparing for this call. So, Kim, how can people reach out to you?
Well, it's Kim Mason on social media, and I am the executive director of Women Cultivating Greatness. And part of the reason why I'm so interested in mental health, and I'm a mental health advocate and coach, is because when you learn differently, there's a lot of stigmas that you have to get over. Like I thought I was dumb because I didn't learn like everyone else. And so your mental health is directly, and your self-confidence, all of that takes a hit, at least it did for me. And so we have a Facebook page, Women Cultivating Greatness. I have a Facebook page, Kim Mason. And I have an email address, KM, my initials, at womencultivatinggreatness.com.
Thank you. Thank you. That's a really great platform. And hopefully we'll be back together soon on that platform in Houston, Women Cultivating Greatness. You guys, I can't thank you enough. We have gotten a lot of feedback on the site. Like I was asking Montvetti, and of course she said no. People are, I've seen people saying thank you, thank you, thank you. Thanks for the, the information, and and just sharing. So this has really been a great platform, webinar. We're going to share this again out. So, and some snippets of it, so people hopefully go and watch the whole thing on YouTube, where we'll place it at. So I just can't say thank you enough, because, there's so many platforms. I can't view them all, but tonight we're on LinkedIn, Facebook, YouTube, Instagram. And, but what I can see, people have been very grateful for the information that you ladies have shared tonight. So I certainly appreciate you doing this, and we'll have to do it again sooner than later, because this topic needs to be talked about. For those listening, again, thank you for joining us on the Wise Sales Network Wednesday night series about mental health. I am Joyce Johnson, author, speaker, sales champion, coach, and founder of Y Sales Network. I can be found at I am Joyce Johnson on all of my social pages. And then, of course, I spend time on LinkedIn at Joyce J. You can also follow Y Sales Network on all the social channels as well. And we have our website, www.ysalesnetwork.com. I am writing a book right now. I put the book to bed already, but the book is titled No Back Doors for Me. And that book is about my challenges with in corporate with different isms and things as a woman, how they impacted me, the trauma that I felt from some of it. Because when you're in a moment, I know that you're checking a box and you're trying to keep going, and you don't want to, as we said earlier, be labeled, or for someone to, or for you not to get that promotion, not get that account, or what have you. And so a lot of times we don't even recognize the trauma that we've experienced because we're so busy putting together a plan to work through it. And so my book, No Back Doors for Me, is will be on sale. It's on sale, pre-sale now on my website, IamJoyceJohnson.com. But, we will continue to have our webinars on the Y Sales Network series. This is our last one for this year. We gave out our last sales tip this week, and we'll be doing my last Thursday therapy. So if you want a little bit more conversation, I host Thursday therapy every Thursday on the channels at noon. So please join me for Thursday therapy. But again, thank you. Thank you for joining this conversation. We hope that you guys have all received something from the message from my guests here, Ms. Megan Copeland, Ms. Kim Mason. We're going to let you go for this evening, but happy holiday. I'm wishing you and your family God's best. Wish you all well. We'll see you next year. Good night.